Ukraine's special military operation in Russia. In a stunning display of strategic initiative, Ukraine did the unthinkable. It launched its own special military operation inside Russia last week, over 900 days after the Russia began its military ops in Ukraine. The incursion occurred in Russia's Kursk region and was the first time the country had been invaded since World War II. The Ukrainian operation in Russia's Kursk region began in late July with several days of airstrikes before Kiev's ground forces quickly advanced several miles deep into Russian territory on August 6, 2024. Since then, according to various reports, they have established an expanded foothold of as much as 1,000 square kilometers. They have destroyed a lot of Russian equipment and inflicted heavy casualties on Russian forces. Ukraine's Kursk offensive is a remarkably bold gamble that could prove to be a turning point in the wider war. Defining the strategy and motives behind the operation is a matter for Ukraine's political and military leadership. Ukrainian goals in Kursk include distracting Russian forces from the front line in the eastern region of Donetsk. Instead, fighting has intensified in that region in recent days, and the risks for Ukraine are rising as it tries to hold ground in Kursk. What did they do? Bringing Vladimir Putin's invasion home to Russia has undeniable strategic and emotional appeal. The most obvious explanation is that Kiev seeks bargaining chips to exchange for Russian-occupied Ukrainian lands during future negotiations. This attack is clearly to provide a morale boost in Ukraine. The Russian military has already been embarrassed. A second goal is to force Russia to divert forces from the front line in eastern Ukraine, where they have been pounding Ukrainian forces this year and making gradual territorial gains. A third goal is that Ukraine's bargaining position in any peace negotiations will be dramatically strengthened if it holds Russian territory. An aide to Ukraine's president says the aims of its attack on Russia's Kursk region is to get Moscow to start fair peace talks to end the war. It is difficult to know, at this point, Ukraine's exact intent for this risky operation. Perhaps Kiev aims to draw in Russian ground troops, weakening their offensive elsewhere. Perhaps it wants to drive Russian artillery northward, beyond range of Ukraine's Sumy region. Perhaps the goal is to capture prisoners to exchange for Ukrainian soldiers held in Russia, or to hold a sliver of land before negotiations begin. Perhaps it is intended mainly as an assault on Putin's political credibility. How they did it? The plan was to rely heavily on tanks and faster-moving armored vehicles, marked with painted or taped white triangles, to surge across the border up the roads, rushing through until they reached resistance, one soldier involved in fighting said. Secrecy was paramount in an attack that had all the hallmarks of an operation planned by Ukraine's relatively newly installed head of the armed forces, called Gen Alexander Syrsky, appointed in February by Volodymyr Zelensky after Gen Valery Zaluzhnyi. Away from the fighting, the Kursk region posed an easier target than elsewhere along the 600-mile front in the east and south of Ukraine. It had fewer anti-armored vehicle ditches, fewer of the anti-tank pyramid obstacles known as Dragon's Teeth, and fewer manned fighting positions, said Brady Frick, an American analyst who maps Russia's defenses. Russia also appeared to have sown fewer mines in the Kursk region than in occupied Ukrainian territories. Hundreds more Ukrainian forces surged forward, breaching border checkpoints and pushing through two lines of defense. With fewer mines and fewer anti-military obstacles, Ukrainian mechanized brigades moved quickly without no resistance at all in many places. Why Russia failed? Russia utterly neglected this possibility because Russia really did not expect this to happen. Ukraine's unexpected offensive has also exposed the weakness of the Putin regime. The Russians had a complete intelligence failure here, French military expert Johann Michel, research fellow at the ISD Institute in Lyon, said in an interview. They don't have command and control. They are relying on conscript military while Ukraine sent the elite army with meticulous plan. Russians were in disarray and disorganized with no plan.